We are 2 weeks removed now from the end of the 2021 NFL season, and there are still 8 head coach openings and 3 GM vacancies to fill around the NFL. Only the New York Giants have made a hire. They brought in Joe Schoen from the Buffalo Bills to become their general manager. But with more teams out of the playoffs now, the Senior Bowl on the horizon, I do expect there to be more hirings this week coming in. One name just to monitor right now is Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. He seems to be a favorite for the Houston Texans head coaching job. I actually reached out to a source about something completely separate, and he said, no, I think that Jonathan Gannon is the favorite there for the Texans job. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition here. But there are ties between Gannon and that Texans organization. I know they're kind of loose here, but follow me here. Nick Caserio is the Texans general manager. He was very close, remains very close with Josh McDaniels, and Josh McDaniels worked with Jonathan Gannon with the then St. Louis Rams, and then was going to bring Jonathan Gannon to the Indianapolis Colts with him when he was going to get that head coaching job. Obviously, Josh McDaniels backed out, but Gannon still wound up there with the Indianapolis Colts. So not a direct connection between Caserio and Gannon, but I do know that Gannon is highly regarded around the NFL. Now, Brad, what can you tell us but what else is going on around the league, especially with Brian Flores, who's still one of the top candidates, despite the fact that he was fired by the Miami Dolphins this offseason?
Yeah, so you mentioned the New York Giants made the first hire, which was GM Joe Schoen, and the belief among many is that he would love to reunite with Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. Obviously called a great game in that phenomenal Chiefs-Bills shootout. There is a strong belief that inside the Giants building, though, that Brian Flores has a lot of support. And one cog or maybe potential reason behind why Flores has maintained a ton of interest, besides being a very good defensive coach, is a lot of folks believe he and Deshaun Watson are very close. And there is a possibility that if he lands somewhere as head coach, he could perhaps convince Deshaun Watson to join him wherever that may be. As for the Chicago Bears, I've been told that Monty Ossenfort, the current director of player personnel for the Tennessee Titans, and Elliot Wolf, who is a consultant with the New England Patriots, are expected to be finalists for the GM position. Obviously, Ryan Poles with the Kansas City Chiefs already has a second interview set up with them tomorrow. But I expect those 3 names to be the finalists for the GM job in Chicago.
And Monty Ossenfort also has ties to the Patriots. He was a scout and a college scouting director for a very long time in New England. So lots of New England ties all over the place in the NFL. All right, what else can you tell us about some of the GM and head coach openings out there?
Yeah, it looks like in Denver, a team that did a very wide-ranging search for a head coach is down to their final 3 guys. They have Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, the Packers offensive coordinator. Of course, we all know the ties there to Aaron Rodgers. And then Kevin O'Connell, the Rams offensive coordinator, who's still in the playoffs right now, is another finalist there in Denver. It looks like GM George Paton will try to have a decision possibly as early as this week there in Denver. As for the Vikings, who have a GM and head coach opening, Chiefs Director of Player Personnel Ryan Poles, who is just 36 years old, has emerged as the favorite there. He's been with Kansas City since 2009, worked his way up the ladder, and has become one of their top assistants there in the personnel department. So he's a name to watch there if they do finalize that this week. He does have a second interview lined up. Once that happens, they will go on to find their head coach. I know Brad mentioned the Giants. Yes, Brian Flores is a name to watch there. Brian Daboll is a name to watch there. 2 more guys as well on that front. We have Leslie Frazier, the Bills defensive coordinator. Of course, we all know the connection there to Joe Schoen. And then once again, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who's going to interview there for the first time today. He is a candidate there as well. Joe Schoen is moving really quickly here, and the Giants would like to make a hire as well as soon as possible there so they could get things rolling with Joe Schoen and the new head coach.
It definitely seems like things moved pretty slowly here for the last 2 weeks, but definitely picking up, as I mentioned, Senior Bowl next week. So that's when some of the scouting and the interviews with some of these college prospects are really starting to begin. And teams obviously would like to have head coaches and GMs in place before all of that really starts up.